The video that you're about to watch is an excerpt from a live webinar. If you enjoy the contents of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. The soul, okay, a person dies and the soul dips into the source of creation. And here we talk a little bit about what happens between lives, right? It dips into the soul source of creation and takes deep rest. And from the perspective of the deep rest, it becomes very clear what lessons need to be learned, what evolution needs to take place next. And then the soul comes out of that silence, that deep rest, with the intention to fulfill the needs, their personal evolutionary needs. There are a lot of other things that happen there too, and I need to tell you about them. But let's just finish this one thought, and then we can go there. And those evolutionary needs can be fulfilled at any time in history. So it's not as if the course of lifetimes follows what we would think of as a linear progression of time, like my last past lifetime would have been sometime in the last century. It doesn't happen like that. My last past lifetime could have been thousands of years ago. You could have had a recent past life, like maybe your last past life, where you were like a follower of Christ or something, you know, and before that, the lifetime before that was like during the French Revolution and really rough, you know. So it's, in other words, it doesn't follow the chronological timelines that we think of in this field, which are constrained by our nervous systems, because you don't have a nervous system. And so based on that, let us take a minute and look at what happens on the in-between. The soul passes out of the body. The first thing is the great deep silence. And is that beautiful merging with the source of creation. And a soul can stay there a long time. It's just like us when we took our 3 minutes of silence at the beginning. I said, okay, you know, we can open the eyes. And I sat there with my eyes closed going, oh, do I ever have to open my eyes again? It's just so lovely in that silence. So one stays until one has drunk one's fill of that silence, until one has remembered what they are really made of, who and what they really are. And then the soul, without a body, goes through a period, I would say, of grace. Because, of course, did I mention most people have this, and I just know this from people with near-death experiences. And so there's a life review. There's a life review on the way in, right? But then after the things that were more or less familiar, the tunnel of light and the life review and all that, then it's the deep silence. You could say it's a time of grace. And I really have been thinking of it like that, especially in the last few days and weeks, because the truth is that living a human existence is seriously not easy. I have so much respect for all of us, for you, for me, for everybody, that we're here. It's just so phenomenal that we're here. Really, that the creator, the chance. I've been saying this all week. I can't even remember who I was saying to, but probably in some private consultations or something. But you know, when you think that when a female child is born, she has about 2 million eggs in each of her ovaries. It's a tiny, tiny infant child has a total of about 4 million eggs in her body. And of those, like, how many actually becomes a person? Some women never have children. And the ones that do, you know, like maybe a handful at the most. You know, I mean, there are those women on earth, I guess at this time, who are having up to like 10 or something, but 10 is nothing compared to 4 million, right? That's nothing. The chance of your existence here, the chance of it being you, is just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. And it's seriously not easy. And we know that when we're coming into this world. And that idea is actually exciting. Like, it's like, really? But yeah, it seems that when a soul is coming to be in the human form and coming into the human world, there's such an incredibly intense sense of excitement to come and to have the opportunity and the chance to be here, knowing that it is profoundly difficult. I see the shortness of the human life as the compassion of the Creator here on earth, because it really is rather a go. One goes into a time of grace where, without the physical body and the constraints and limitations of the physical body, life can be experienced in a rather gentle way. And of course, there are realms in the spirit world, there are realms, and where a soul ends up within those realms is very much a reflection of the level of consciousness of that soul. Some realms are more heavenly than others. But most people, most souls will choose to take some time in the spirit world and just enjoy living. Just enjoy living without any aches or pains. Enjoy living without any major life-shattering challenges coming and knocking on the door. You know, just living gently, just living in a gentle way. And I feel that this is the compassion of the Creator, because living right now in a human body is seriously challenging. This world, you guys, this world, oof. I don't need to go into detail because you know. And it's nice to know. I think a lot of people, the moment of death is, according to Vedic science, is determined by the moment when the karma that one is facing overwhelms the physiology to such a degree that the physiology can no longer sustain itself. And that's not based on like projects that you have left unfinished or desires that you wanted to accomplish that you didn't get to accomplish. That's just, it's kind of like a simple mechanical thing. And so I think that for a lot of people, that time of grace in the spirit world is a time when projects can be finished and desires can be fulfilled. And it really is a rather gentle time. It's not like the evolution is really as satisfying, right? In order to have that satisfying level of evolution, the experience needs to come all the way up to the physical material level. So in the time of grace, in the spirit world, and I would just like to add a little point here. There's a man named Jurgen Zweig, and he has done a lot of exploration and traveling through these realms. And he has really elaborate, amazing descriptions of them. Yeah, he spent so much time traveling and celebrating and working in those realms. And he's also an artist, and he has lovely artwork on YouTube, I would like to add. And his artwork on YouTube is absolutely inspired by his travels. So I recommend that you check that out, because it really is something delightful. It's delightful for the senses. If you love art, if you love visual images, you will love his work, I assure you. But meanwhile, we all have our experiences of those realms, and they absolutely run in a progression from places that are rather dark and unwelcoming to places that are absolutely glorious. But regardless of how comfortable or uncomfortable one is at that time. And that period, eventually the soul is just driven to come back. As in near-death experiences, when the soul crosses the veil and then they bump into some like grandparent or something, and the grandparent says, you need to go back, right? It's the same thing when you need to come here. You know, the soul is in this, especially if this lifetime was a lifetime of integrity and virtue and, you know, good behavior, right action aligned with natural law, good evolution, that kind of thing, then in the spirit world, it can be quite comfortable. But at some point or another, the grandparent comes and goes, you need to go back, you know, something like that. And so, or some expression of universal intelligence shows up and says, by the way, this is important. And then the soul starts to go through a process of exploring what that's going to look like, right? Breaking it down and thinking through like, okay, what are the main life lessons, and where are my loved ones, and, you know, how shall I navigate this experience, and what will I be? Who will I be? And so, and that period can often be marked by experiences that seem like school, moments that seem like, you know, where there are people there to kind of guide, souls to guide and help support the decision-making process and provide access to different possibilities. And so, and of course, we carry a lot of those energies with us into this lifetime. Like when you're in the spirit world and you're experiencing, like, say, going to a school and meeting with teachers and guides and stuff like that, actually those forms of consciousness are expressions of yourself. And in this world, you still carry them with you, including the karmic board, who are literally an expression or an elaboration of an area of the causal body. That the karmic board is the part of consciousness where we interact with where we understand how our soul interacts with the laws of nature and the laws of karma. And it's determined like what types of karmas and how we're going to interact with those karmas and so forth in the physical world. And because those aspects of ourself remain with us in this lifetime as expressions of us, of our nature down here, kind of abstract expressions of our nature, it's possible to renegotiate. And it's so common for people in the spirit world to look to this world and go, they're in the spirit world and they feel great, right? They're not constrained by their body. So they think, oh, I can take on a lot. Like, this is easy. I'm here. Life is bliss, you know, let's just do it. Let's just go for it. I'm going to like burn off as much karma as I possibly can in this next lifetime. I'm going to really go for it, you know? And then they get in here and they're like, oh my God, oh, did I really want to do this? You know, did I really want to be born into a family of like terrible people who are going to abuse me my entire childhood? I don't know. So it's possible to renegotiate. But as a tiny child, that's not so commonly, that possibility isn't always so commonly understood unless the soul is really evolved. Then they can come in even as a tiny child and be extremely, extremely clear, extremely aware, and they can renegotiate their karma if they need to. I wish that for all of you. If you make that mistake of thinking you're just going to burn off all the karma in some lifetime, the story is that many years ago, I was laying on my couch after I had been meditating and I was just resting. And I had the thought, hey, I know, because I was doing energy healing, right? It's like, hey, I know, I'm just going to get rid of all the anger, like all the anger. Like I'm going to go through the entire span of all the lifetimes I've ever lived. And I'm just going to dissolve and resolve all the anger, all of it. And so I settled my awareness in the source of creation. And I was like, okay, what do we need to do to just get rid of all the anger? And And the wave came out. And as it came out, the pain in my back, which had been feeling fine, my back had felt fine before that. The pain in my back became so unbearably overwhelming that I was paralyzed. I came out of that. I was literally paralyzed. I was able to call for my dear husband, and I said, I can't move. Something's wrong. I made a mistake. so you don't have to make the same mistakes because you can learn from my mistakes. But yeah, so I'm sitting there, I'm laying on the couch, and like a minute earlier, I felt fine. There was no pain anywhere in my body. I was fine. But anyway, yeah, paralyzed with pain, literally paralyzed. And the whole back, all the way from the top to the bottom, was a phenomenal experience. One of those experiences you don't forget. Anyway, luckily, I had a dear friend at the time who was doing a lot of energy healing with me, and he was, bless his heart, he was practically on call. And my husband called him, and he came, and I could still speak, and I could like move my eyes. And so he came over, and he just sat with me until we worked it out, and I undid the mistake I had done, and it was better. And I realized at that point that that's not a good idea, to just try to get rid of all your anger in one shot or all your karma in one shot. And the reason is, and I know this next point I'm going to make doesn't exactly have to do with past lives, but I think it's just such an important point that I want to share it with you. The reason is that when something in this universe finds expression, and that something is not nice, it doesn't mean that the solution is to utterly destroy it or utterly get rid of it. That's not the way nature works. Nature doesn't work like that. What nature does is it brings a level of compassion great enough to meet the level of suffering. Compassion meets the suffering. And when that happens, the experience, the overwhelming experience, is provided a context to transform. It transforms. The example I've been using all week are the dinosaurs. Oh, they were terribly scary things, weren't they? Aren't you glad that we don't live in a world with dinosaurs right now? You could say, and for years, of course, for a long time, humans thought, well, you know, at one point there are these big, extremely fearsome, monstrous beings on the earth, but obviously they all got destroyed. Well, they didn't. They're still with us in the form of birds. The birds of today are the dinosaurs of 500 million years ago. Compassion, a great compassion, came. It rose up and it met you could say, the crudeness of those forms. Those forms were more crude, so they weren't able to sustain in that form, in that way. But the forms were able to refine and eventually become these absolutely lovely creatures that we get to live with in this lifetime, in this world. It's very amazing.